be excited for contact. They are. The main motivation that keeps me on the path of public service is all you next generation souls. It is your innocence that I desire to protect from the outdated virus of negativity. Your life does not matter.
What's fun?
To die, to be shot, is fun. Why take away the shootings? Shootings are fun.
You look at the tyrants in the past. I greatly respect their accomplishment. You can learn from Hitler and apply it in a positive way. Oh, you're joining a cult? Well, yeah, but it's the cult I want to be part of. This cult's awesome. Keep quiet. I appreciate the participation, but keep it quiet for now. Just keep it to yourself, basically.
You're never gonna make the cut. It's for the elite only. And you're not good enough. You're not elite. You know that. There's no escape, buddy. You're not good enough. Can you see that? Can you see that it's actually true?
This is surrendering mind to that great, mysterious knower, knowing the 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 knower. Know the knower of now. Know the knower. Does it feel good?
Yes.
Are you aligning your thoughts with, I could say mine, but let's say your higher selves right now?
Yes.
Nice.
Yep, keep faking it because you're starting to make it. And look beyond the words while you say it. Don't let it become autonomous or monotonous.
Without you, all that it is, without you, all that it is.
You'll sink in. Now you all signed waivers, right? Okay, good.
Today I want to talk about Bentinho Massaro, but I'm just going to call him Ben. That's what everyone calls him. Ben, he thinks he's God. And that's not even the problem at this point. It's that he is, some would say, a cult leader, and there is some controversy as to whether a death that occurred in his cult is his fault, fully, partially, not at all. That's going to be up to you guys to decide. Now, the thing with Ben is that not only does he think he's God, but he believes he can do things, special things, like move things with his mind. There's this video of him moving tinfoil with his mind.
Just some tinfoil that I could spin on a table. That's when I thought, okay, this is enough. I don't have to practice this anymore. I've proven it to myself. And ever since, I haven't really done it or even attempted it anymore.
He can change the weather with his mind.
Did you know he can stop the rain?
Should we both try and stop the rain?
Let's do it.
Okay.
Be absolutely confident.
Despite our combined efforts, the rain prevailed.
I found this Facebook post that Ben made, and he says, I have affected physical matter, generated motions, movement in water, made it rain. I guess he's not talking about with money. Made wind blow. Objects move, changed certain events, shifted into parallel realities where suddenly people and dynamics and the experience around me operates under a different assumption, directed lighting, alter my body in some ways. Yes. In addition to moving things and changing the weather, he can also teleport, levitate, and bilocate. Okay? Ben also believes that, quote, if you don't wake up and do something important, you should unalive yourself. Okay? Now, the reason why this quote becomes kind of an issue is because someone that followed him unalived themselves. Someone infiltrated his group cult and what they did was write an expose. And what they said in this expose essentially was that this guy is, abusing them, and he is actually like priming them for a mass unaliving. The author referred to him as Jim Jones meets Steve Jobs, that he was like a tech guru, tech bro guru, like a cult 2.0, like the new OS of like cults. The crazy part about it is that just a few days after this article was published, one of the members unalives themselves. Some people think he's responsible, some people think he's not. What I want to do is what I usually do, right? I want to give you guys the facts, and then we'll discuss the theories, and then you can decide for yourself. So the whole thing really starts in Amsterdam when Ben was a little kid. He was born March 13th, 1988, which means he's a Pisces. Okay, not surprised. Water signs. I'm a Scorpio rising, so I know I'm talking about myself too, but water signs. Am I right? You know what I mean? Whatever. A lot of you guys are like, shut the fuck up about the astrology shit. It's my channel. I'm a Virgo. When Ben was a little kid in Amsterdam, he likes to tell this story. I'm going to give you a trigger warning right now from the beginning. Yes, it's starting like this. It's about something messed up that he did to a kitten. And so if I know some people are going to be like, oh my God, warn me. I'm going to warn you. I'm going to tell you what he did to this kitten. It's not good. So just double tap 10 seconds and I'll say it quickly. You've been warned. Okay. The rest of you that are still here are just like me. Anyway, he said he tortured this kitten. Poor little baby kitten. It's a baby, it's a kitten, of course. Basically, he took this kitten to the backyard on a leash and started throwing it on a thorn bush over and over and over again. And the cat was like squealing and all this stuff. And he kept doing it. And he said that like he was possessed by an evil spirit when he did it. Okay. Uh, why? Why are you possessed? Oh, he'll tell you. The reason why he's possessed by an evil spirit is because he's a superhero. Duh. Every superhero has to fight evil, and the evil forces were out to get him, and they made him do this to the kitten. So when Ben is telling his followers this story, he's telling them about how he was this angry child, that he had this thing where he would shit on people's lawns all the time. Then he got diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder. This video is sponsored by Huge Casino. It's huge, and it's a game, a casino game. Now, this is for entertainment purposes only. You're not actually gambling to win real money. It's for fun, okay? You can play this for free on iOS and Android. It's not just slots that you can play. You can play blackjack, poker, baccarat, roulette, and you can even play with your friends. And you join this club, and it's the Billionaire League. And so I want to show you what I like about the game. I am a visual person. As you guys know, I love the vibes. I love the visuals. Ooh, look at that. It's very tropical. I like. Oh, baby. Five of a kind. Nice. Leveled up, baby. So if you guys are interested, use the link in my description to download the game for free. You'll get 5 million chips for doing that, and it'll help my channel. Thank you to Huge Casino for supporting my channel, and thank you guys for watching. Anyway, back to the video. Ben was an only child, very spoiled. And his mom would tell him things like, you're perfect. You're the most brilliant child that ever was. You're the most perfect being that was ever created. He could basically do no wrong in his mom's eyes. Now, his parents, both of them, were really into New Age spirituality. And they were specifically into this thing called the Silva mind control method. And basically, it's a method of mind control or meditation that is created by someone called Jose Silva, which that's a whole other character, whole other thing, a rabbit hole I almost fell down. But basically, this method claims that through certain meditation, you can change your brain frequency to like 7 to 14 hertz, and which gets you to the alpha state. And then you can do mind control, and you can do things with your mind, telepathic things, move things around, stuff that he claimed he could do. Because guess what? When he was 10 years old, he was reading a lot of these new age books, and he said that his parents enrolled him in a childhood, like a children's class of this Silva method, and that he mastered it right away. Of course he did. He said that not only did he master the Silva method and could move things with his mind as a kid, but he also had the highest IQ in his class, even though he was, quote, a lazy student and didn't really try hard. He just like could do all the schoolwork like effortlessly. When I was listening to this, you know what I was thinking? I was like, dude, isn't this the plot line for Matilda? It's the plot line for Matilda.
There was a girl named Matilda who was extraordinary in every way.
She can multiply large sums in her head. You should believe in whatever power you think you have inside of you.
So Ben, he was very burdened by his specialness and being a superhero. With great power comes great responsibility. So he's reading these spiritual books that his parents have as a 10-year-old. He's reading Deepak Chopra, he's reading about yogic philosophy, and he becomes really into Indian spirituality. And by the time he is 18, he goes on this trip to India to like find himself. Now, the thing is, you get different stories about this because when you hear his version, he claims that he was poor and his family struggled with poverty and sometimes he didn't have food to eat. But then I found this Dutch article, and in that article, they're talking about how he lives in this nice area and his parents, they both had good jobs, and that he was actually able to go on this trip because his parents paid for it and he went with his girlfriend and he had a great time. So I don't know, I feel like he probably just was able to go to India, but I think he knows that like his story is maybe more compelling if there's some struggle there. So anyway, so he goes to India. When he comes back, he starts a YouTube channel where he talks about this spirituality. And he posts his first YouTube video in 2010.
What are we trying to understand? There's nothing to understand here. Then we have to stop trying to understand everything.
And this will be the beginning of essentially his cult. Ben got a lot of attention pretty quickly, and by 2011, he was invited to a conference to be a speaker about these spiritual topics. And it was a conference where Deepak Chopra would attend and other people like that, where these are the people he read about as a kid, and now he's there as their peer. But the thing is, okay, he claimed he was disillusioned when he met them. He said, quote, I had attained greater clarity and purity of mind than most of these other teachers. Now it was like, well, wait a second, it's up to me. It was really powerful to realize that if I want to change the world, if I want to upgrade spirituality, I'm the one who has to do that. The year after that same conference, they disinvite him basically when they find out that he's been trash talking the other spiritual teachers. So now he's kind of going rogue. This is where the whole tech bro cult thing comes from because people compare his tactics, the way he does the cult, like a startup. Kind of created something like a Netflix. Basically, it was called Bentinho Masaru, his full name, TV. And it was like Netflix in the sense that it was an online video subscription service. Like you get access and you can watch all the content there. But unlike Netflix, it was all content of him talking about his spiritual beliefs and teachings. And then he had like an app, and then he had a virtual reality machine. He came up with an astral projection inducer. He had a tech lab, and it was all designed to open up connection with aliens, right? Because I forgot to mention his mission as a superhero is to help the starseed aliens, because the starseed aliens, when they got to Earth, they got lost. They have a hard time. And he's part of this elite group that are supposed to help them get around and show them the blueprint. Okay. And so he has access to this special knowledge, and he has this huge mission, and he's using technology to bring people to his new teachings because he is going to create a whole new society, a new earth, as he called it, on Earth in 2035, which is going to allow people to get the alien technology finally, and we can ascend and become spiritually elevated.
So vibrationally, again, we need to be ready for this type of contact, and we need to be prepared gradually. This so that we can integrate it, learn, expand, integrate it, learn, expand, fear a little, process the fear, transform the fear, integrate it. And so more and more we can start to match their speed of consciousness. Now, exactly the term interstellar absorption means that we will become part of an interstellar association. A lot of that technology, a lot of that innovation will be shared with us. Then we will be absorbed into an interstellar alliance.
Ben was doing really good when he kept this all online. Okay. The problem was when he took it IRL. He should have stayed online because the minute he took it IRL, which means in real life, by the way, is when his problems started. It got too real. A very common guru or teacher or whatever way of making money is having retreats. And they usually cost a lot of money. In this case, his retreats were $5,000 for 9 nights, for example, when he first started. And they go to like a hotel or a really beautiful location, and he teaches them things, and that's how they make money. So he realized that although he was making money online, this was really lucrative to have a retreat. And so he decides to do that. What he was teaching in this retreat was this idea of upper density. Okay, so let me explain something. He believes that we all have different density levels. The highest is 8. He's 8, of course. He's like Jesus, he's a 4. He is going to teach you how to have upper density, like increase your density levels, which increases your enlightenment. And what happens when you get to that high level is you get the secret alien technology and information that's going to allow us to have the new Earth Trinfinity in 2035.
Be excited for contact. They are.
So people paid thousands and thousands of dollars to go to these retreats. There is a former member. Her name is Gabby Petrus, and I found her YouTube channel, and she has a lot of this footage that I'll be showing you. There are also other clips here and there, but I kind of want to give her credit because she was a former member. It's really disturbing when you know that there's someone who took their own life, is when you hear the way he talked about death and dying and sort of borderline, allegedly, possibly encouraging it.
Your life does not matter.
Imagine this whole room not giving a damn about their life. How fun would that be? Because the most powerful creature on Earth is the one who does not give a damn about their life. If I heard the news that a comet is approaching Earth tomorrow and it would wipe out all human life, I'd be absolutely fucking ecstatic.
What's fun? What's fun?
Yes?
What's fun?
To die,
The
to be
is.
shot, is fun. And you literally feel so powerful that you don't care if someone puts a gun to your head. Nobody cares about you. And that's great. They shouldn't. That's how it's designed to be. Nobody should care about you.
In addition to normalizing dying, if you will, he would also tell them, and this is classic cult stuff, to like cut off all their relationships with other people.
Fuck your relationships. Fuck your relationships. They mean nothing. They are reflections. They come and they go. Fuck them. Don't give a fuck about your family. Don't give a fuck about your children. Don't give a fuck about your parents. Don't give a fuck about your partner.
The part that a lot of people found upsetting was the way he would demean and degrade his followers.
I'm going to gain it, then I'm going to get there. So I don't want to admit that that's never going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what you do, no matter how hard you try, it's never going to happen, buddy. You're never going to make the cut. It's for the elite only. And you're not good enough. You're not elite. You know that.
I know that, but I do clasp onto this idea that I might be. Like,
Mm-hmm. You're not. Trust me.
Okay, all right.
I can tell you're one of those that are not able to do it.
I'm just gonna have to go through life and just kind of get what I can, and hopefully it's good enough.
You're not even going to be able to do that.
It's hard for me to see that as true, to admit that.
Can
I'm
you?
trying to, but I keep wanting to believe in some alternative.
Whatever alternative concession plan you've made, you're not able to do that. There's no escape, buddy. You're not good enough.
Are you deserving of love? Are you infinitely worthy? Are you infinitely worthy? Are you infinitely worthy? Yeah? Are you? How do you feel? Fuck you. How do you feel? What's your calling? What's your calling? What's your calling? Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you. What's your calling? Fuck you. What's your calling? Fuck you. What's your calling? I don't care. Where on this piece of paper made out of tree molecules with the coloration of blue, if you weren't so high up in your own ass about this fucking concept. So then what does it do, what I do with my hand? So what? Somebody is being triggered. That is funny. How is that not funny?
Then one other thing that he did a lot, and this really I think is so interesting because it was so hypocritical, because one of the biggest things that he would preach is that if something bad happened to you, and he's usually talking about like childhood trauma, like let's say you got R-worded or something like that happened to you, he would basically be like, it's your fault. You attracted that. It's not the person who did it to you's fault. You need to own it. That's you. That's your shit. And there's clips of him talking like that.
You guys are all bastards. You're all selfish. What about that woman in Saudi Arabia? What about her? She chose that experience. And when you stumble upon a point of view that feels good about someone else being raped, are you willing to accept that point of view? Arrogance would be, no, I'm a good person. This is wrong. They don't want to take care of themselves. They don't want to take responsibility for the fact that they've created the present state of being and their circumstances. They do not want that yet, but that's okay. Those people will die or shift into a different parallel reality. Why take away the shootings? Shootings are fun. If we look at the tyrants in the past, I greatly respect their accomplishment. I have no problem giving credit to those tyrants. They are great success stories in their own right. You can learn from Hitler and apply it in a positive way.
On the flip side, he constantly would talk about how he is not responsible for his actions. So he's telling you you're responsible for someone else's actions that hurt you, but he is not even responsible for his own actions. Okay. There's a Facebook post he made. I want to read you. It says, I am not responsible for my actions anymore. This is hard to explain until you reach to where I have reached. For lack of a better word, I am not a person inside a world and I have no body. That exists in your illusion, no longer me. And then he didn't like boundaries. Always this pressure to push boundaries. So when you tell someone, you gaslight them, what you see isn't real. And then if they do try to set a boundary, the whole thing is breaking down boundaries, creating an environment where if anyone tries to have a boundary, it's really bad. You can imagine the type of shit that went down. And he would post stuff like this all the time about how he's like not responsible. And if he does something bad, like it's not actually bad. Like, for example, he posted this excerpt on Instagram from a book where it says, whatever the guru does is correct. The guru is self and he cannot do wrong, even though his actions may well appear to be wrong in the sight of the world. If a devotee sees the guru's actions as bad and thinks badly of the guru, the bad power will come to the devotee. If you think whatever the guru does is correct, then good power will come. There's another post here. I'm not going to read the whole thing. You guys can look at it. But the part where he says, I'm a Confederation source, but I have chosen to come down into the dirt to play with you all from a place where you would see me as a human, as equal, so that I have more liberty in expressing myself without crossing the cosmic boundaries of free will. And then at the bottom here, where it says, so my shouting is an expression of that love and compassion. Most here can see this. Why can't you? And he goes on here to, I can scream at you all freely. And he talks about doing his duty, putting in the work, pretending to be human to relate to you. I now feel free to be Shiva, my true self, destroyer of the worlds. Then this was like the part that for me, I was like, oh my God. And the word salad repeating thing he did.
Right now we're all on the ship together, and the ship is going down. Okay? All you need to do is be willing to let go. Be willing to let go. Be willing to let go. Be willing to let go.
Remember, 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 remember. Remember to remember. Remind yourself to remember to remember. Remember to remember to remember to remember until remembering is your conditioned state.
And I got like straight up triggered because, I'm editing all this footage and I swear to you, when he says knowing the Noor, it was like, it was like he was talking about me.
From where everything appears, whence all things are known. Knowing the knower is your lifeline back into source. This is surrendering mind to that great, mysterious knower deep within. Knowing the knower, 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 right now. And right now, know the knower of this sound, know the knower of this sensation, know the knower of this sound, know the knower of this sensation, know the knower of this sound, know the knower, know the knower, know the knower, know the knower now. Know the knower of now, know the knower. See the seer, be the being, know the knower.
He would also justify being mean and yelling at people and telling them all this messed up stuff by being like, listen, guys, I'm an alien. And in order to sit here and like mingle with the peasants, I have to come down to your level. I have to be human.
Able to do things from or clarify things for people from a more, I don't know what the word is, and no offense, Ryan, but like human standpoint or human level.
He loves this word salad repeating like hypnosis. Like I think he thinks he's doing mind control, which part of that is this weird eye gazing thing that he does where he just sits there for minutes, like sometimes 9 minutes of him just staring at his followers, like people or the camera or something, just like in your eyes and not say anything. Or I really think he thinks he's doing something, which apparently he did. He had followers.
Now, simultaneous with that wisdom and maturity, then comes the stupidity of why don't you change? Can you feel the difference? Who is scared?
When the yelling didn't work and the eye gazing didn't work, you know what he would do? The hugging, right? He would just like that was his pattern. It was like love bombing and then being super mean and then gaslighting, and it was like rinse and repeat. It was insanely manipulative, and he would sit there and hug people after like shitting on them and fuck you. I hate you. He'd be like, I love you though. This is why I'm doing this, baby. I love you.
And whatever comes up, still okay. Trust that too. Part of the process.
When he's 25, he comes to the States and he goes to Boulder, Colorado, because it's got this big new age scene. That's where he's doing these retreats and stuff. But there's about to be a scandal and some shit that goes down where he ends up leaving Boulder, Colorado. Okay, what happened? So he had a girlfriend and they appeared to be monogamous. They claimed to be monogamous. And he ends up cheating on her on the retreat where she's teaching yoga with another follower. And it becomes this whole thing. She finds out, and he essentially tells her, like, listen, you're like hindering the spiritual growth. And so I'm done. I don't want to be with you anymore. He decides that he needs to be, quote, polyamorous because his penis is healing. It's actually healing. He said it would be very sad if he couldn't heal people with it. So he's doing you a favor. Over the years, his message and the way he did things changed. When he first started and he was in the States, he had followers that were his core original followers, and they were with him and his message, and it was a lot about the message. But over time, it became sort of a cult of personality. It became about him and people being obsessed with him, and he's God and he is the message, not the message. Thing is they were making a lot of money. It got to the point at this time where they were making like 60,000 a month, and that's just from membership subscriptions of like his streaming service and stuff. And he, not to mention retreats and stuff. But the problem is that he wasn't paying his core team from the original olden days, like when they started, not olden days, but you know what I mean, like from the early years. He wasn't paying them. Some of them he wasn't paying them at all, telling them that they were in like serving him, like it was service. And then other people he would pay very little. Meanwhile, he was like spending like crazy. All of a sudden, he gets super into really expensive cigars, and he's saying, quote, that they're beneficial if you know how to attune your consciousness to the consciousness of the plant. Okay.
I will also occasionally spend that money on something that nourishes my vehicle. I enjoy good whiskey, I enjoy a good cigar.
And then he bought like fancy cars. He was going on all these trips. And
Good morning. I just arrived in Dubai last night.
meanwhile, the people doing the actual work are not getting paid or very little. So they get upset. So they end up having this meeting behind his back where they talk about we need to change the message, the way we do this. Instead of marketing him, we need to market the message, right? Ben finds out and he feels betrayed. He gets upset. He leaves Boulder, Colorado, and he goes to Thailand where he does this dark retreat. It is this silent, dark meditation where it's like pitch black, no sound, nothing, and you just sit there. And he was supposed to do it for 2 weeks. He only did it for 5 days because he said he got a vision and he realized what he needed to do. He needed to leave Boulder, Colorado, go to Sedona, Arizona, which is another very popular New Age scene. And that's where he's going to build Trinity City, the new Earth, by 2035 so that they can elevate and go to the aliens. He comes back and he tells the followers in Boulder, basically, I had this vision in Thailand, and this is what he says. He said, when I came out of darkness, I looked up properties in the area that's been calling me, and I found a property that would suit our needs and had almost all the elements that were in my vision. And it's called New Earth. And he said it'll be the center of everything to come, an anchor for the New Earth vibrations to stream into our atmosphere and into the earth, for we will act as a receiving antenna and a grounding beacon. Had this Trinfinity Corporation, which he said would link the spirits that are enlightened in all the dimensions. And then he had Trinfinity Academy where he would teach and charge you. And then he had Trinfinity Films and TV where he would have like the promotion of that. And then he had Trinfinity Tech Lab, which is where they would harness this alien technology so that they could enlighten and advance and be like the new earth. And so he had his loyal followers come with him to build this new earth in Sedona, Arizona. Instead of making that 60K that they were making back in Boulder, now he's making 120K a month on these retreats and stuff. And he is really getting to the point of like next level shit. And he's kind of becoming like almost a celebrity within that world. It got to the point he had bodyguards, and he had created this rule where if he was wearing sunglasses, that meant don't talk to him. Only when he took his sunglasses off could the followers that paid $1,000 to be there could talk to him, right? And then while he was there, he also needed to heal them with his penis. Now he's telling them he wants to do something called the Sedona experiment, but only by invite only. So he invites like his 12 most loyal devoted followers, and gives them the opportunity to partake in the Sedona Experiment 1. Well, later on, they would say that they were his guinea pigs and he experimented on them and they almost died.
What people become like, what they turn into after joining a Sedona experiment.
What are you guys doing? Being enlightened. It's cool.
And what they say was, quote, he wanted to experiment with a group of 12 people as guinea pigs to be able to synthesize the best way to teach. Felt like Jesus and the disciples because we were the first ones receiving these teachings. Basically, he takes them to the desert for 14 days and he has them do this dry fast where they can't drink water or eat food, but they can have grape juice. He would tell them that they would have to fast this dry fast with the grape juice for 40 days, but they say that he could barely do a week. And then there were some that did 10 days, some 21, and they said someone did 108 days. And that this was supposed to like elevate their plasma or some shit. Well, to some of them almost died. So this one person says that they were complaining like, my hair is falling out, my teeth are falling out. And you know what they would tell them, the leaders? They would, you're detoxing. You're just detoxing. You're good. Like, who needs teeth and hair? It's negative. It's low vibration. He's telling them about getting to the level known as the absolute or the void. And this is when people started to feel like he's talking about them dying. He would say things like, don't fear death, be excited about it. Looking forward to death makes you truly come alive. And then he said something that would be really important later on when there was a police investigation. He said, wake up to something important. Otherwise, kill yourself. Make that agreement every day. You either kill yourself or you dedicate yourself to something important. During this whole thing, they felt like he is setting people up for a mass suicide. He kept talking about the harvest, and that one of the staff members said, I always had a weird feeling about it. In addition to this starvation, he then put them on something called polyphasic sleeping, which basically meant you could only sleep in small, short spurts. Like you couldn't get 6 to 8 hours. It would have to be less, like little small ones. And he said that that was somehow better for your enlightenment. But honestly, it's mind control. They're sleep deprived and they're starving and they're isolated. Mind control. When all this was going on is when there were complaints coming in, and it was like people were calling the cops in Sedona and they were like, you need to look into what's going on here because these people are like starving and they're being berated and they're isolated from their family. Like, it's not okay what's happening there. So they kind of got on the cops' radar. It is around this time when this is all happening where B. Schofield, who I've mentioned her before in some of my other cult videos, she found out about this guy when she was in Sedona and what he's doing. And she decides that she is going to infiltrate the group. She goes by a pseudonym. She calls herself Shakti Hunter. And she went in for a month with the group and she ends up writing this article, The Cult. This is when she finds out that they're being berated, they're being starved, and that the members of this group feel like they're being groomed to basically like end their lives. Just a few days before the Sedona Experiment 2 was about to start, and this one was going to be open to the public.
The Sedona Experiment, number 2. In April of 2017, we had the Sedona Experiment. The Sedona Experiment was an intention, or rather the manifestation of a vision that came to me while I was in a darkness retreat in Thailand. Now it's ready to take this experiment. It's an experiment because we're trying to language this in a way that resonates with people, that they can actually lock onto this realization, regardless of their level. It's 12 days of boot camp style meditation and guidance and instruction and Q&A. There's going to be certain dietary restrictions. If you want to be with us in this container intimately, this container, this environment, this instruction will take place inside of the illusion of the Sedona vortex.
Just a few days before the Sedona Experiment 2 was about to start, and she publishes her article. It spread within the community and everybody had heard about this. So now, just a few days before his second Sedona experiment, he is freaking out. He continues with the experiment, and on day one of the Sedona experiment, 2, he is having to answer questions of people being like, what the hell's going on? What about this in the article? What about that? Is that true? And he's sitting there and he is defending himself and being like, no, it's not true. Like, and then he says at one point during this questioning, he says, quote, like, okay, great. Yeah, we're a cult. It doesn't change what we are. If you want to call that a cult, go ahead. Now, the messed up part about this is just a few days after one of Ben's followers ends their lives at the retreat, like during the retreat in Sedona. His name was Brent Wilkins, and he was 34, only 34 years old, and he was a former professional tennis player. And he was found by a hiker. His body was in the creek at the bottom of this like over 200-foot cliff, and they saw him there, and so they called the cops. When the cops came, they looked into his pockets and they found a name tag. It said the Sedona Experiment 2, and then it said participant and his name. Then they found his car keys. They went up the cliff where they found his car, and in the car, they found a McDonald's receipt and it had like scribbling on the back of it. And this is what it said. It said, this did not happen because of my friends or my family. I just didn't feel safe and made some mistakes. And as soon as they tell his parents, hey, like, this is what happened. Do you know what's going on? Immediately, the parents are like, yes, he's in a cult. He's in a cult. The mom was like, he joined a cult here. The father said, I will tell you everything. And that's when they basically tell Brent's story. And the thing with Brent is that he had a lot going for him. He got accepted into good schools. He was good looking. They used to call him Hot Brent. He had this tennis career. Like, he had a lot going for him. Problem is, he had a hard time making decisions. He was afraid he would get like locked into something. And so he would get paralyzed, and he was always struggling like at a crossroads. Through all of that, he was also always like searching for things. He got really religious with Christianity. Then he got into the Deepak Chopra thing and alternative, like New Age spirituality. He was reading that. And then he ended up stumbling on one of Ben's YouTube videos and he was into it, right? He became obsessed. He ends up going to one of these retreats way before the Sedona one. And even his parents were like, don't go, because he was already being weird just from watching. And they say once he went to that retreat and he came back, he was completely different. They knew that something was wrong. They just didn't know what. They say that there was something missing. It was Brent, but it wasn't Brent. So he ends up leaving. He's from Virginia. He leaves Virginia and he goes to Boulder. This was when he joined the group back when they were in Boulder. So he's a longtime member. It got so bad that his family actually hired one of those like deprogramming cult specialists or whatever, and Brent refused to see them, and then he stopped talking to them, and then 2 years went by, and then all of a sudden he called them. He called them after 2 years, and he was like, basically he wanted to come home because they all had moved to Sedona. He didn't go to Sedona with them. He stayed in Boulder, and then he had a girlfriend there. She was originally from Denmark. She left him, broke up with him, and left. And he just felt like he wasn't part of the group anymore, and he was just struggling. So he comes back to Virginia, and he is struggling basically when he comes back, to the point where they end up taking him to a psychiatrist. And when he's doing this intake form, they ask him if he's ever wanted to harm himself. And he said yes. And the second question is, how would you have done it? And he said that he would have jumped off a bridge. So they end up putting him into a psych ward, essentially, and he stays there for about a week. And then he gets out, he stays in Virginia, and he's fine for months. He's fine. He's still, though, in contact with the group, like Ben and the cult and all that. And he ends up 6 months later, after coming out from the psych ward, after 6 months, he goes back to Ben and the group. At this point, they're still in Boulder. He goes there, he stays there, and then there's that move that happens to Sedona and this retreat, and he goes to the retreat, right? That's when we know that he ended up taking his own life. Basically, what they say, he went to that retreat the first day and he listened to Ben explaining the article and everyone questioning him about the article. They say he then walked out, didn't say anything, and nobody ever saw him again. So a few days after his death and police looking into it, they decide to go talk to Ben. They say that they knocked on his door 13 times. He only answered, according to this article, on the 13th knock. And they come in and they say, like, we need to talk to you immediately. Ben thinks it has to do with the article that came out. And so he's talking about the article, and it's the article, and they're like, no. We want to talk to you about something. And they say that they started recording it. This newspaper in Arizona, they got the recording. They didn't publish it, but they, in this article, discuss what they heard in the recording. So I want to read you some quotes from that. It said that basically they had concerns already from people bringing to their attention that this group is, doing these dry fasts and all this stuff. So they were already looking into him and they were investigating, watching his videos, looking at the things that he was saying on video. And that's when they found that one video where he said, wake up to something important or kill yourself. So when the cops come in, they question him about that. They go, you said this. And Ben says, I don't remember, but I can totally see myself saying that. And then he says, so you've watched the video? And the officer says, we've watched a lot of your videos. And then he says, well, I use like shock and awe to get their attention. And he says, it's more of an expression. I've never seriously suggested that people actually do it. And the officer says, well, I understand, but when you do say something like that, and someone who is close to following you may take that as a suggestion, because Brent, right, he said, wasn't doing anything. He was conflicted. He wasn't actually making a move in his career. And you're saying, wake up and do something important or end it. So if he feels like he's not doing something important, he feels like his life isn't worth living, is basically what the officer was trying to say to him. And so Ben is like, no, you know, I didn't mean that. Like, I'm not like saying it literally. And the officer tells him, well, yesterday he did kill himself. And Ben apparently said, no, are you messing? And the officer says, I'm not joking. That's why we wanted to come talk to you about your words, because we wanted to make sure that your words did not encourage him to kill himself. Ben says, I've done nothing but encourage him in his personal life. And then they say he moved his hands like this and folded them in front of his heart, closed his eyes like namaste type situation. And that one of his girlfriends was next to him crying. Ben starts doing these interviews where he's contradicting himself. In one thing, he's saying that Brent was a dear friend of his. In another thing, he's like, I didn't actually know him. We weren't that close. And he then said something in an interview which people found very upsetting. Okay, he said about Brent's unaliving, he said, maybe it was a powerful moment. I don't know. Maybe it was a super powerful moment. I don't recommend suicide for anyone, but I also don't judge it. I think sometimes for some people, it is a powerful decision. And then he started talking about how reality is an illusion, like a video game. He says, you're playing a video game. You know it's not really you. It's not ultimately real. The video game ends. If you fall down a cliff, you still exist. You just walk away from the game console and you're fine. So police, they conducted an investigation and they found that Brent actually did take his own life and that they didn't feel like they could pin it on Ben. Everyone else felt like it was Ben's fault. Brent's family felt like it was Ben's fault. He lost a bunch of followers online, in person, at the retreat. Like, he lost a lot. It even got to the point where at the Whole Foods in Sedona, people were yelling at him, you're no longer welcome here. So he fled, he ran. Okay, he actually went into hiding. He took his girlfriends with him. He's still like charging people and trying to do these online retreats and sessions for the new earth and all this stuff. But then he starts getting exposed from ex members, and it was like every year he got exposed, like bam, bam, and it was bad. So the first one was his ex girlfriend, where she talks about how like he was so mean to her and he would tell her she would have to lose weight. He wouldn't sleep with her unless she lost weight because he said the fat in her body was storing toxins and that she should do the dry fast and she could only eat fruits and vegetables if she had to eat, and she had to work out twice a day. And so she posted this, and in response, Ben posts on Instagram a picture with his new girlfriend who is a model, and he says in the caption something along the lines of um, women who think they're oppressed are living in a fantasy world. And then he gets exposed again, this time by three ex members, and they do it like organized together. And all three of them basically did this interview where they said that they were breaking the NDAs because he had everyone sign NDAs for 100,000. One of them was for $300,000 if you spoke out about this, but they were going to do it because they feel like something criminal happened, like SA, and that therefore, if that happened, it makes it so that, if you speak out about it, you're not actually breaking the NDA. And what they said was insane. So Jade, she talks about this story where, remember how I told you how he would like say that your traumas are your own fault? And so there was this one incident, she says, where he made one person say to the whole group this awful childhood trauma that they had suffered, like an SA that happened to them in detail. And she said that Ben was turned on by the story and told her to go upstairs to the room in the hotel they were at, and they reenacted the trauma that that person just described. They did it where he was the victim, where he was the one that was aggressive and she played the role of the victim who confessed. And then she said after that, they went down and he told in front of everybody, he told that victim what they just did. And the whole concept behind that is that he's like desensitizing him so that that trauma no longer has power over this person. I was shocked. And so, the first question is, oh my God, that's messed up. The second question is like, why the hell did you do that? That's crazy, right? And so she then talks about the whole thing about boundaries and how he was all about breaking down boundaries, and he would do crazy things like strip them nude in front of other people and just start going at it. And then if they were uncomfortable or resisting, he would actually tell them, just disconnect from your body, just disassociate from your body, as if it was like some sort of training exercise. And he would do that to a lot of the girls. And of course, it was also the thing where he would tell them they had to lose weight, and that, he would send them pictures of really skinny girls all the time. They also then realized that he was using them. He didn't actually like them because he started by love bombing them, but he was strategically using them and controlling them. So the Jade girl, she had a large following on social media, and that's why he used her to try to get her to promote him on her socials. And Jacqueline Graham, she had money. She had a restaurant and she was getting investor money and she was living off of this investor money. She said that he told her that he had this vision, that he loved her and they should be married, but that he got this download that it would be more powerful if they merged their bank accounts than if they actually got married. He ends up basically stealing her money, just all of it, and claiming he lost it in some cryptocurrency scam. The minute they merged bank accounts and he got the money, he literally said, I don't find you attractive anymore. And then just he went from the love bombing to like completely treating her like shit. He's doing his thing still, but it's more like online only and not so much in person. But it seems like he does have followers. Like, let me double check his most recent Instagram. Oh, and he has a New Year thing going on. Okay, he's doing a new Bentino live.
First of all, let's start at where everybody's at, no matter where they're at. And it's possible for you to recognize that you are always and already free. It is your innocence that I desire to protect from the outdated virus of negativity by reminding you how to transmute it into an unconquerable clarity, so that your generation may finally complete the work for this civilization.
Truly powerful membership that grants you access to 2 long-form interactive live sessions. You can ask questions with Ben, only $29 a month, and it is a charging station for your spiritual battery. Okay, Tesla. And he's like, it's a step into continuous whatever. You can read this shit. But anyway, look the comments. Clarity, unifying, you, me, we, one. Clearest, purest, freest, most complete teachings I know. 2 weeks ago. Can't wait for this. Okay, so you are the big brother that anchors the light. I'm in. I'm all in. Perfection. I'm in love with you. Okay. I'm so grateful and in love with you being here. Well, those are the facts, basically, where we stand now. And police decided, like I said, not to press charges, but people think he's responsible. So that's what I really want to ask is when it comes to someone who has that much of an influence on you, like a cult leader, and you're their devotee, and they're talking and glamorizing and almost advocating for ending your life, and then someone ends their life at one of your retreats. Where do you guys think the responsibility is? Is it just words and he can say whatever he wants, free speech, and he's not liable? Or, how do you really determine that? I feel like we know on an emotional, intuitive level that he's somehow responsible, but I don't feel like legally, although there was that one case, the girl who kept texting her boyfriend, do it, do it, do it, do it, do it. But, it wasn't, I don't think that targeted specifically. Like maybe if what he said in that video was a text message directly to Brent, like soon before, like shortly before he did it, then maybe you could make that argument legally. I don't know. I would love to know what you guys think. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you to Huge Casino for sponsoring this video, supporting my channel. Check out the game. It's free. I hope you like it. And I will see you guys in my next one. Bye. Don't join a cult.